Hello. I don't know why it did that. It's very strange. I didn't change anything since the last stream, so mysteries abound. Okay, OBS. Anyway, hello everybody. How are you today? I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever you're up to. My name is Ariana. I am the co-director of the Consent Academy, an international Seattle-based nonprofit that aims to promote consent as part of everyday life. And I'm pretty excited to be here today and hang out with y'all. Hello, Aradin. Thank you for the hello. I am gotta get there we go. There we go. Hey, Krellin. You said ever since computers went mass market, programmers have continuously made them do things without user intervention in a misguided attempt to be helpful. Yeah. I've had this problem recently with Zoom, constantly picking an output speaker that doesn't actually exist and never existed. And I'm just like, why? Why? And I guess OBS sometimes picks a mic that doesn't exist. And it's not like this is like a computer that's got a bunch of problems. Like it's brand new. You were all there with me when I built it. Um, yeah. Anyway, welcome to today's stream. I'm very excited to be here. I am doing NaNoWriMo. I don't know if I've told you all. Maybe I did. I think I did. I'm doing NaNoWriMo. I have hit the goals so far. It has been a lot, but I'm loving it. It's great. It's great. I've got a story that I really like. It was a dream that I had a while ago that was like incredibly vivid and incredibly cool, and I really wanted to do it. And it's, yeah, it's nice, and I'm excited that I'm telling it. I picked a story that was not like this one that I was super, super in love with because I didn't want the pressure of trying to like make a really good um, write of this story and like have all this pressure to sort of like perform. And now my camera's out of focus. Oh no. Oh no. Come back to focus, camera. Come on. You can do it. I believe in you. Hey, Deceptive Mirror. Thank you for the subscription. I really appreciate that. Yes, it's back in focus. Okay. So I picked a story that was like not one of these ones that I want to do like tons of planning for and like I really want to get just right because I was like that's too much pressure. I don't want to do that to myself for trying to write the whole first draft in 1 month for a novel that I'm like really really into. Um Thank you, Deceptive Mirror. I actually need to re-dye my hair. It has been quite a while and yeah, I need to re-dye it. But it's now this like nice kind of brown, like dark brown color. It looks very natural and I really like it. Instead of the like normally jet black that I do. Um, but I've just been lazy. I cut my hair and then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna dye my hair more often. And then I've just been like, no, no. Uh, And anyway, it's one of those things where I picked a story that I was like, this was a really cool dream I had a while ago that I really wanted to write a story from. Um, I'm just going to do it. It's great. And I'm having a great time. And I have this one song that I have to listen to on repeat forever. It's just like this one of those like cafe ambiance with soft jazz, but it's like literally just this one piano refrain that just like repeats on an endless loop because it's the only thing that I can listen to without getting distracted. Even silence will distract me. Anyway, it's been quite the time. I'm really enjoying this. Uh and Krellin, you asked, why is November the month for all the things? Was the internet just super bored in November? And I think it's because summer's over. November is the first month when it starts to actually get kind of uncomfortably cold, but then uh Thank you, Shawnee666, for the follow. I really appreciate that. Welcome. I think November is that month where it's not Christmas yet. It doesn't feel so spooky anymore because Halloween's come and gone. Um, yeah, I think people are just kind of in between because you don't really want to go outside. Uh, Hello, Shawnee. Thank you for introducing yourself. And I'm glad you're having a good time in Berlin. Um, anyway, yeah. So, and Aradin, yes, it was one of those very cool, fun, vivid dreams. I have overwhelmingly vivid dreams almost every night, and most of the time they're pretty cool. Like I generally enjoy them. It's not so great when it's a nightmare because then it's like incredibly vivid and visceral, and I'm just like, ah. But when it's a cool dream, it's nice. Um, Yeah. So anyway, Krellin, you also said, or around people in the US wanted to do something to distract them from Thanksgiving. Yeah, probably. I also think that January needs something. January and February are 2 months where I kind of wish that there were some more festive holidays because I feel like they're the coldest months of the year. And I think a lot of people just kind of get like, because you're kind of waiting for spring to come and there's not a lot to like really look forward to. I just think there could be some more festive things going on. And Krellin, it's cold. I don't want to go outside and nothing is spooky anymore. I guess I'll just have to stop shaving and having orgasms. Yeah. On that note, if you do No Nut November, more power to you. Absolutely do what you want. And I do want to say that like orgasms are good for your health. Um, and lower the risk of prostate cancer. You don't have to have them, but like sometimes people think that like semen retention is like some gateway to enlightenment. Uh, every once in a while at my temple, we would get people who come in and say that because they would just be like, so I don't jerk off anymore. Will this make me enlightened? And we'd have to just be like, hmm. Uh, but yeah, anyway. Uh, the world is full of interesting and fascinating people. Yes, pizza. Okay, anyway, I got some things up today. I'm still trying to stick with the focusing on family relationships, though I've got a couple that have to do with um, romantic relationships and conflicts that are happening there that I would uh, Cullen, there are lineages of Buddhism that actually believe that you can attain enlightenment by having lots of sex and doing lots of drugs and being really hedonistic. But the whole point is to realize that all of those experiences are fundamentally empty. Not empty in like a Western sense, empty in the Buddhist sense, which means that they have no intrinsic meaning or value and that they will not produce or create anything of permanence and therefore no longer experience attachments to them. So a lot of people think those lineages of Buddhism sound really cool and they get excited and they're like, yeah, I'm going to go join that one. And then like get sad when they realize the whole point is to do it to the point where sex becomes meaningless to you. And not in like there's no emotional connection. Like it's, you kind of transcend the idea that's even physically enjoyable. Anyway, uh, life is very interesting. Lo-Fi Prince, hey, welcome. And it's true. Yep, the world is full of fascinating pizza. That would be my campaign slogan, I think. um, and Aran, you said, I wonder if they are the same people that thought eating Tide Pods would save them from COVID. Yeah, who knows? Okay, so let's look at this first situation I've got here because I think it's a nice one to start with because it's kind of something that I think it's got a lot of good things we can talk about. Um, there is a beer party in Austria or Germany. I forget. I think it's Austria. There's like a party whose whole platform is about giving people more and better access to beer and like lowering taxes on alcohol and stuff. Um, and they've got like a couple of people in parliament, I think. And Yeah, that's pretty much their whole platform. Anyway, this is from Reddit relationship advice. I'm going to just always put as long as I remember to, the links in the chat if you want to write your own comments or join these conversations. I highly encourage you to, especially if you want to talk about these things from the lens of consent. I think the more people we can have on these forums injecting consent into part of the discussion, the more we can build consent culture because it will kind of normalize it more. Lots of people look at these things on Reddit. So it says, I've started matching my husband's energy when we argue, but it leaves us both feeling bad. So this is one of those things, just starting right off the bat, it's really common for somebody to be sort of emotionally dysregulated or really activated or keyed up, however you want to think of it. And that to get the person or people that they're interacting with also in a funk. Even happened earlier today a little bit. I was talking with my mom. We hadn't talked in a couple of weeks, but that's kind of how it usually goes. Like sometimes we'll talk a lot every week, maybe several times a week. We'll like send each other funny videos and silly pictures and whatever. And then we might go a couple of weeks without so much contact. We just kind of have an ebb and a flow. And she got on the call with me. We chatted for like 45 minutes this afternoon, and she was like, "Is everything okay? Like with you? Is everything fine?" And just like the way she asked it kind of like didn't annoy me. It just kind of like put me into this sort of energetic state that was a little bit like, ugh. And I felt like I didn't really know how to express what I wanted to say because I was like, no, my genuine feeling was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I've just been focused on writing this. She was like, well, you feel different. You seem different. Like, and I was just like, okay, I need to be careful to not start to react to this as this is some sort of attack on me because it's not. Like, I know my mom, I know what she's trying to say, that like I haven't been responding to her in text messages or whatever in the way she expects. And she's kind of hypersensitive to these things sometimes. And she really cares about our relationship. And the truth of the matter is, I was like traveling a whole bunch. I got back and I got sick. And then I've been writing a novel. I've just been busy and like distracted. And so the thing is, though, is like, if I had sort of matched this sort of like concern and difficulty and everything, if I hadn't had this awareness of like, okay, I feel my sort of own internal energy kind of changing, I feel myself kind of getting into this feeling, this mood, and I need to just kind of be aware of it and maybe sort of bring it back a little bit or make sure I'm not just reacting from this place. It could have become probably a really tense conversation. And that did happen a lot when I was a teenager, where my mom would try to be asking a completely genuine question, but in an awkward manner. And then it would just make me feel weird. And then we would just both end up miscommunicating and kind of stressing each other out. And then, typical things. So I bring this up because I want to just start by saying, like, this is a great example of a very common issue that comes up a lot with people. And I think it's really good for discussing how emotions can reduce capacity and make consent harder, and behaving in a way that's also in line with your own values, but also that having a lot of experience with somebody can also set precedents that make navigating certain issues actually more difficult. Having no experience with someone can make it a lot more difficult, and having a lot of experience can also make it difficult. Like, there's pros and cons to both. And Lo-Fi Prince, you added, my interfamily communication isn't great. I think this is one of the themes for this month is uh, mostly family stuff because it's the holiday season coming up. I think next weekend the theme is going to be how to talk to your racist uncle or something. I forget what I put on the schedule. Aradin, this is why mad isn't always the best idea. Not quite the same thing, but similar. Yeah, and deceptive mirror familiarity breeds contempt almost. This is one of the things I want to talk about, which is that we have to be very, very careful about allowing resentment to build up. And especially be careful of the regard that we have for the people we have relationships with. Sometimes we can forget, especially in something like a marriage, where ostensibly we're aiming to stay together for the rest of our lives, or familial relationships or really important friendships. We can forget that most of the time our main goal is to have the happiest, most sort of sustainable relationship possible. And sometimes allowing yourself to sort of feel resentful in a moment is very satisfying, very cathartic. And I'm not saying like gaslight yourself, but resentment often comes from when we're not actually communicating boundaries with somebody, and where we may even be agreeing to things that are outside of our boundaries happening, and then feeling angry that this person does not then realize that they are transgressing in some manner, or expecting them to mind read. Okay. Yeah, mutually assured destruction. That makes sense, Aradin. Thank you for the clarification. So we can get into this state with resentment where like we can really just start to, sometimes resentment comes when it's like an abusive relationship where it's not safe for you to express yourself. It's not safe to set certain types of boundaries, whatever. But then there's also, and that's not really what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the resentment that comes from a certain type of acquiescing and a certain type of not having the difficult conversations when they're easy or easier, or just like really shying away from conflict all the time. And it's one of those things that really builds up over time and can be, the more you allow it to build up, I really need my bangs cut, the harder it can be to come back from it, the harder it can be to let go of. And it's one of those things where if a person feels like there's an imbalance in a relationship, like if they feel like I'm always taking the high road, and they start to tell themselves, my spouse or my partner or my friend or, my child or whatever never is thoughtful and I'm always taking the high road. Remember, we talked before about being careful with these sort of absolute statements like always, never, forever, because those tend to not actually be true and they tend to make us feel really bad. But you also have to be really careful of the regard that you have for the people who you probably want to keep in your life forever. That was actually one of mine and Charlie's wedding vows to each other, was that we would always be very mindful of and attend to the regard that we have for each other, because we really want to make sure that this stays. Okay, so let's read the rest of the situation. Too long didn't read. My husband yells at me in arguments. I yell back, and now we just yell all the time and hurt each other's feelings. My husband, 41-year-old man of 16 years, and I, non-binary and 38, have been through a lot in the last couple of years with a miscarriage, infertility issues, family deaths, and life during COVID. So this is one of those things where that's a lot. In general, marriages have, or life partnerships have, ups and downs, and people don't always have resources for processing it while it's happening. And a lot of the time, what one person needs in that situation might actually be poorly matched to what the partner or partners need during a situation. And so this can be something that causes resentment, first of all. Like if I really need somebody to be able to listen to me and to be there for me, but my partner, if Charlie, say, really needed time alone to process his own feelings, if we're both reacting to, or both in the center of a trauma or a stress, and we can't then really be there for each other in the ways that we need it, but we feel like my partner ought to understand, that can cause a lot of stress. But also just being worn down and having recurrent stresses. So stress in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. And stress is one of those things where it's basically any sort of energetic state that takes an organism out of homeostasis. So it can be things like being really hungry or really tired or needing to change state or move from a place or anything like that. And stress, for the most part, is, an acute experience that then is fine after it's gone. But trauma, whether it's lowercase t trauma or uppercase T trauma, is a kind of extreme stress. Lowercase t traumas are part of the human experience. Well, both the types are part of the human experience, but everybody experiences lowercase t traumas. Things like, breakups, friend breakups, death of pets, death of family members, losing your job, that kind of stuff. These are, lower, generally speaking, they can be uppercase T traumas, but most of the time these are lowercase. And they're things that are stresses that are beyond our capacity to manage, to deal with, to move through and integrate quickly, that overwhelm us and our capabilities. But most of the time, enough time goes along, you process what happened and you integrate it. Big T trauma is when it's a trauma that is a type of stress, remember, that is so great that it so entirely overwhelms a person or a group of people's ability to even process what is happening a lot of the time. However, big T trauma can also come from having a lot of